Weather for Weather Geeks is back after a little 4-day hiatus. Hope you had a good weekend, everyone. A hot and steamy Monday, but, after a Cavs victory Sunday night, despite how hot and kind of miserable it was outside yesterday, there were a lot of smiles across Northeast Ohio, and mine included. Lifelong Cleveland sports fan here, and it's been a long time coming, and I'm just glad that in my lifetime, in my father's lifetime, that we finally got a championship in Cleveland. All right, on to the weather. Speaking of champions, we have the Valley's most accurate forecasts time and time again. We're always up front with our accuracy here, when we miss, when we hit, and we've had a pretty good month of June. We've only had 3 misses out of 21 days, a miss being we got the high temperature wrong more than 2 degrees. And today we were right on the money, 82 degrees the afternoon high today. That was our forecast from last night and this morning. And so our accuracy streak, the new one, is up to 4 days. All right, one thing we noticed today, the dew points way, way down after a muggy day yesterday, a muggy night last night. After daybreak today, dew points dropped all the way into the upper 40s, lower 50s, and we've even been in the mid-40s at times this evening, so the air mass has dried out considerably. The juicy air is now well to our south. As you can see here in the 7 o'clock hour this evening, still some 70-plus dew points, D.C., Baltimore close to 70, and a lot of juicy air down into the south as well. So this front, kind of sprawled out right along or just south of I-70 or even farther south than that. I drew that backwards, but you get the idea. So it's a much more comfortable air mass, and this means temperatures will drop nicely tonight. A lot of severe weather today. A couple of radar-indicated tornadoes around Baltimore and D.C. earlier on. A lot of wind damage here. Hail, flooding. It was a messy day along I-95 from Philadelphia down to D.C., with severe weather reported back into parts of the West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia kind of corridor through there. This evening, that's where the action still is, sinking off to the south, the severe weather threat diminishing, but still a couple of watch boxes in effect at 7:42 this evening. Let's start focusing on our next big weather story here, and that's the potential for severe weather tomorrow night and early on Thursday. Now, if you have outdoor plans tomorrow, including if you're heading to Cleveland for the parade and the rally, beautiful day. Clouds will subtly increase in the afternoon, but still a good deal of sun. Seasonable temperature, about 80 or so, and the humidity will stay low. Now, let's start talking about tomorrow night. The big question is, well, there's several questions, but these things are notoriously kind of hard to figure out more than 12 hours in advance. There's going to be a complex of thunderstorms that blows up out here somewhere. Where's that going to be? Is it going to be kind of up here, or is it going to initialize down here like the RPM model here says? This has huge implications for us. The farther north this complex of storms initializes, gets going tomorrow evening, the better chance we have of getting some nasty storms later in the night. The farther south it initializes, or is born, if you will, the smaller the chances are that we end up having severe weather around here. The last couple of runs of the RPM model have kept everything south. I could see where that's right, but I could also see where the initialization is much farther north, like up in here, and it rides more like this. I could see that as well. And since I can kind of, I can see either scenario, it's kind of maybe a 50-50 call right now. My overall confidence in severe weather for late Wednesday night, Thursday morning is not real high. Someone's going to get it, but it could be Columbus instead of us. So you're going to want to stay tuned to the latest forecast, because I think we're going to have a much better clue by tomorrow morning. Once we start getting closer, the higher resolution models can kind of ingest the data and spit out more reliable information. No matter what happens late tomorrow night, Thursday is potentially a little unsettled with a shower and maybe even a thunderstorm here and there. We look at a lot of things when we're trying to figure this stuff out. These MCSs, mesoscale convective systems, is what that is. It's kind of a fancy term for a big bowing line of thunderstorms, and those are those very typically produce a lot of wind damage. They look like a bow. They bow out. There's a part in the middle that's kind of racing ahead of the other part of the line, and they produce a lot of wind damage. And these like to form along the leading edge of what we call the low-level jet, a river of fast-moving air, 4,000 or 5,000 feet, 3,000 feet above our heads. And so here's the NAM model suggesting to me that it would try to track something like in this corridor right here, right along the nose of that low-level jet. It also likes to kind of ride along the periphery of the instability. Our atmosphere above our heads tomorrow night will not be very unstable. It'll be much more unstable to our south and west. But even though the atmosphere above our heads may not be that unstable, these storms kind of tend to do like this. They kind of ride along the periphery of the highest instability. So these are all things we have to watch. I think there's a chance of severe weather late tomorrow night, early Thursday, but certainly the odds are higher off to our west. The moderate risk area in kind of this orange-red color is, I think, in the right place, Chicago to Fort Wayne to Toledo. If they're going to correct this some, it's going to be to shift it a little farther south. You know, this moderate risk could end up more, like this or something like that. If there's going to be a correction. I don't think they're going to push it any farther north. I think they could bring it south. We are not in the moderate risk. We're not even in the enhanced risk. We're in the slight risk area in the yellow, which typically means scattered severe storms possible, but, likelihood of a huge severe weather outbreak isn't real high locally. It's much higher, I-75 and points west. So here's where I have things ranked as far as the threats right now. Notice I do not have a tornado on here. Can I rule out a tornado somewhere in eastern Ohio, western PA? No. But the odds are pretty low. Very low, in fact. So I wanted to put the top 3 risks here. Damaging winds, number 1. Number 2, probably flooding. Even though this will be moving fast, these nocturnal MCSs can throw down a lot of water in a short amount of time. Large hail, also a possibility if these storms move through our area. Now, the risk of all these things, again, is much higher, I think, in Toledo and Lima, perhaps Columbus to Indianapolis as well. As far as the timing goes, I kind of alluded to this. I think 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. on Thursday is kind of our main corridor. There can be showers into the day Thursday, but if we're going to get severe weather, I think it's, in the wee hours. It's probably not as early as midnight, but 1 a.m. to maybe 5, maybe 6 a.m., something like that. So this is, kind of an odd time of the day for us to get severe weather, but it does happen from time to time in the summer. Now, depending on where the main line of storms goes, we could get a lot of rain or we might not get much at all. Here's the current modeling. The GFS takes the cake here with up to 2 inches worth of rain. Other modeling kind of clustered closer to a half to 1 inch of rain. Again, if we get the cluster of thunderstorms, someone could get a few inches of rain, no problem. But some of us may end up not seeing much at all. It just kind of depends on where that thing wants to meander. All right, the dew points are going to spike Wednesday night into Thursday, and then refreshing air again for Friday and the weekend. Now, I say refreshing, meaning it's not going to be that humid. It is going to be pretty warm, though. I think we're pushing 90, close to it anyway, Sunday and perhaps Monday as well. And here's a quick look at the climate model's 5 to 15-day outlook. It's not a scorching hot-looking pattern, but it is generally an above-average pattern for us in the 5 to 15-day range. This takes us from the 26th through just a little after the 4th of July. So, you could expect a lot of warm days in through there. Duh, it's summer. But I mean warmer than average. Average highs are in the lower 80s. You can probably expect in that 10-day time frame several days where it's above the lower 80s. Middle upper 80s, maybe 90 or so. So that's kind of a sneak peek at the longer range. All right, 8.5 minutes, that's long enough. Thanks for watching Weather for Weather Geeks tonight. Of course, full coverage tomorrow as we get closer to our potential severe weather event. I'll be up first thing in the morning and probably cut a video and do a blog and, kind of have the latest. And, of course, Jess Berganti will be in the studio tomorrow morning on WFMJ Today. Have a great Tuesday night.